They're still alive. I'm Glenn Crooks, Roberto Abramowitz, and this is NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene tiro y gol! ¡Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right. Orlando City, no goals. New York City FC, 2 goals. That's the most recent result. And it was a wonderfully played game by New York City. And now Toronto is on deck coming up on Saturday. So we're going to go through all this. We're going to have the highlights of a Spanish commentary goal call and an English commentary goal call. It's nice to be able to call some goals. Roberto, how are you? And before we get started, I want you to humor me for a couple of minutes, okay?
Go right ahead.
Because the one thing that I know we share is a love for radio, correct?
Yes, correct.
I mean, we both grew up with transistor radios, next to our ear while we're watching our favorite teams, whether we're in the stadium. I'm going to start out by saying I'm still disappointed that we don't have more supporters that actually listen to both of us on the radio, whether it's the Spanish commentary or the English commentary. We have hundreds that listen to every game. We know that. We have a record of it, and sometimes a big game, it'll get into the thousands. But we know that not everybody that follows NYCFC will tune into us. So just putting out maybe a bit of not a plea, but it would be nice for those who support the team in particular, but even if you don't and you just enjoy the game, because the one thing I'll say, Roberto has Ariel Hudas, who knows more about MLS than any of the 4 of us that do broadcasts. He grew up in Argentina, and he's got this real feel, and he listens to Argentinian radio every morning. He knows what's going on there. We have so many
Spanish too.
We have so many South Americans in the league. So. And then I've got Matty Lawrence, who played over 650 professional games in England as a central defender for teams like Millwall, Fulham, Crystal Palace. And yes, he's a cynical British guy, but
he's
you know what?
Funny as hell.
Yeah, it's just I think it's an entertaining broadcast, but informative as well. So that's my little play. But I love radio so much, and I came to the facility today. We're in Orangeburg after training on a Friday. Does it say Orangeburg there?
No, but it says Etihad City Academy, Football Academy.
Which is the training facility. Yeah,
right.
Etihad. Yes, I call it. I sometimes just simply call it the New York City Training Facility,
which is fine. But I just want them to know that, and we're giving free publicity to Montefiore Einstein and City MD, and Etihad.
Yeah,
so they're there.
Well, whenever I tell my family where I'm going, I don't say the Etihad City Football Academy, because they would say, what?
I just say Orangeburg.
But I'm listening. I'm a Sirius XM subscriber, and I get it gratis because I host a show on Sirius XM. But I'm constantly listening to the radio, and I'm in the car a lot. And so I'm listening to a lot of great music, and I love it. But Howard Stern was interviewing Paul Simon. And I just want to tell a Paul Simon story. I found this just to be, and this is the joy I have. And one of these things I think relates directly to the radio. So it's 2 stories. So humor me. I got 2 more minutes. Then I want to know what you think.
As time as you want. Go ahead.
So he tells a story of, and they're talking about fame. And he said, well, one of the attributes of fame is which means he has a lot of money, is that I could just take my family and go to the Amazon to do and hire someone to show us around these more rural parts of the world. So he tells the story of going into a village that has like 25 huts, thatch huts. And as they're walking around, in front of one of the huts is a young lady who has a guitar, sort of a handmade guitar with nylon strings. And he he walks up to her, and she tells him a little bit about, the guitar, and he goes, "Do you know any songs?" And now keep in mind, she has no idea who this is. She plays Sounds of Silence. How unbelievable. I almost drove off the road. I thought that was I got like
That's
a
great.
chill.
Yeah.
He's in he's in the Amazon, in this little thatched village. And so that was interesting. And now the other thing he said, which I think relates to radio and why we love radio so much, Roberto, he was talking about the moment that he felt that the musical industry lost itself. And he said it was the start of
MTV
music video.
Yeah.
Because people became more enthralled and focused on the pictures and the creation of that rather than the music.
Right.
And it's the same thing in radio. I remember, I never Harry Harrison, all these guys on these people, the NEWFM crew, Dave Herman and Scott Muni. I had never. All we heard were their voices,
right?
And we didn't know what they looked like. There were no pictures everywhere, and you couldn't go on social media. There was no social media. So, and I remember almost being disappointed the first time, I saw one of them. It's just, it's almost like you didn't want to see them, or they didn't look like they sounded, or whatever it might be.
That happens.
And so it's an amazing medium, radio, and I, just to be able to have it. And Sirius XM, I think, is great, but if you don't have disposable income and have, it's a luxury. You have to pay for it. It's a subscription,
and pay through the nose if you don't go and threaten to terminate the contract, so you can get the
so
best
many
deal.
great channels. Stevie Van Zandt has his own channel, and he is an unbelievable storyteller. And I know you like storytelling, but anyway, so. Give us a listen on the radio, because there's a certain amount of creativity there, I think, and the pictures that are formed. And if you're watching it on Apple and you're just listening to us, same thing, man. You get a little bit more description because, we're trying to give you that picture.
So that's what we're doing. The whole point of our descriptions in the radio is to be able to paint a picture so the person can fully imagine what the play exactly was like. It's setting the scene and telling them what it is. So in radio, because we've both done radio, we've both done television, in radio, you're painting the picture and you're setting and you're describing everything. In TV, you don't have to do that. And it's more of an analyst medium. Yeah. And you set your analysts up to be able to tell you why something happened.
And there's
on radio, it's a matter of more of the description of what is happening. And then obviously you let your analyst do his thing. It's less for the analyst on radio, and it should be more for the analyst on TV.
Yeah. Both are an art form, and it's really a privilege. Now, to give you an example, so New York City defeats Orlando City 2-0 at Citi Field. The first goal was scored after Santi Rodriguez's penalty was saved by Pedro Gallese, but the alert Monsef Bakar pouncing on it, half volley header to finish. So here's Roberto's call of it.
Es 1-1 esta temporada. Prepara la pierna derecha. Galese agachado. Ahora se levanta. Viene el tiro. Lo paró. Contra el remate. ¡Gol! De New York City. Es Bakar. De cabeza se lanzó de palomita. Y New York City tiene la ventaja 1-0. Bakar, su tercer gol en 4 partidos. Se levanta el estadio. New York City tiene la ventaja. Y veremos qué sale de todo esto.
At the end, the fourth goal overall, he scored, third for MLS. I caught that, the fourth goal.
At the end, my comment was, well, let's see what happens after this.
Well, what happened
and that just came right out. I mean, that's what I felt, right? That was my feeling, because we've seen the team blow a whole bunch of leads this year. So it's like, all right, let's see. Because, I mean, this win is such an important win, not only because it keeps you alive as far as trying to qualify for the playoffs. And once you're in the tourney, you're in the tourney. And then it's a crapshoot, and who knows what could happen. Somebody gets hot, and God knows what could happen. But you got to get into the tourney. But the point is, I mean, for me, in general, that game, it's like the best game that they've played since they beat Dallas 3-1.
Yeah, and that was on April the 22nd. So it was certainly one of the better games. And what you're referring to also when you say what happens next, New York City has been unable to get that second goal, which can kind of almost seal it. So 68th minute, now it'll be my call of Tyler Magno scoring for his first time since that April 22nd game. Here it is.
Play Santi Rodriguez on the right. Rodriguez high in the air to win a challenge, and now he's set up one-on-one with Santos. Little ball on the ground to find Jason. Back post, Tyler Magno! And Magno scores from Jason! It's a head ball goal! And he's getting mobbed by his teammates. They know how important that is to him. He's down on his knees. His head is on the ground. And he is visibly emotional and crying, scoring his first goal since April the 22nd and giving New York City a 2-0 lead. Well, what a moment here as Jason put in a great ball and Magno high into the air and the redirected header with power to beat Galese.
Well, really, the emotion there. And I got caught up in it, and Apple TV did a great job of getting the pictures, the close-up where you could really see, Magno's head just bobbing because he was sobbing, on this delivery from Jason. And Andres Jason just told us he was the player featured this week at the presser, that he didn't see Magno there, but what they train is to play the ball to a spot, and then it's the guy off the ball that's responsible for getting there and putting it home. And Andres Jason, he admitted that he put it a little bit behind Magno, and Magno with the tall frame and the strong neck muscles to really develop and we're going to listen to Roberto's call in a moment too, but it was just it was a great finish.
It's a great finish, and there's a little bit more insight, right, as far as how New York City plays and what they're looking to do and what they train and what their philosophy is. It isn't like he's got to look up to see who's there. He has to put the ball in a certain spot, and somebody better be there. That's the point. And I think it's a really, really good point about how to play the game, right? It's one of the ways. It's not the only way, but it's one of the ways to play the game. And that's the philosophy. And it's one of his it's one of his strengths, Magno. He's very good in the air, and he's tall, he's lanky, but he's got, he has spring in his legs. And obviously he's got a damn strong neck, because from that distance to put the ball right into the upper 90, I mean, that was brilliant.
And while he's moving backwards and getting stationary and just a really fabulous finish. And and you talk about part of it, here's the delivery and you better be there. Richie Ledesma played a beautiful ball across the top of the six in the first half of the game where nobody was home. Santi Rodriguez didn't get there. Monsef Bakrar didn't get there. And our call was like, someone should have been there because there was enough time to see the play developing on the wing and then the ball being played across. Okay, so Magno scored. It was such a great goal. We're going to give it to you again, this time in Spanish.
Santi ahora bailoteando, toca para Jason, viene el centro, Magno de cabeza, ¡gol! De New York City, Tyler Magno, el primer gol que mete desde el 22 de abril, Magno se tira al piso, todos celebran con él.
Well, and you asked Andres Jason too about post game in the locker room, and he gave a good sense of the emotions there. And first thing he said was everybody was so happy for Tyler,
and New York City fans are happy as well. And you hope that this is maybe the moment that catapults him back into the goal scoring machine that everybody thinks that he can be, that he's got the talent to be. And there was something interesting today in the press conference. The part that I missed while I was interviewing Andres Jason, there was a question about using Magno. And you were here, so you tell me a little bit more about this. It was a question to Nick about using Magno and Bakrar, and he had said something about that they don't play. Can you give me a little bit more context on that?
No, well, it was playing them together, I think, was the question. And the idea is when you talk about playing together, you might be thinking of them as twin strikers. And I think Nick was just differentiating. Nick Cushing was differentiating that, he'd be on the left and certainly they'd be connected at times, but that New York City doesn't play with two strikers. So his point was that they're not going to play together up top.
Right.
But they can play together, and they will play together. I mean, you're going to see them at the beginning of the match on Saturday against Toronto, and which is tomorrow. I keep thinking today's Thursday. Today's Friday, right?
It is Friday, yes.
All right. And, and it's like the question also was directed in a manner that it looked like they were working well together, which, for the amount of time they've been together, it did look as if they enjoyed playing together. That is Magno and Bakar. So, look, it was just a great coming out for Tylus Magno, who's been in that drought for so long. And for New York City, they obviously hope it continues. New York City, officially, I had a mathematician figure this out, Roberto. They are not in control of their own destiny in no shape or form. So even if they win out, they're still going to need help along the way. But we do know that they're playing some teams beneath them that are going to, and slightly above them, that are going to give them some opportunities, including DC United, who's in 9th, and Chicago, where's Chicago at? They're below them a notch now. I guess.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So at the last, I thought I went back and to try to see when is the last time New York City was in playoff position, like in ninth place or higher. It was May the 17th. And it was after the 1-1 draw at Orlando. Gabe Siegel scored late. Assist Tylus Magno. So Magno's had some pretty good moments against Orlando.
And we hope that they, well, at this point, we hope they continue against Toronto for New York City fans. If and when, he comes into the game, if he starts or he comes in off the bench, whatever they wind up doing with him. And you would hope that at this point, maybe mentally that's a relief moment for Magno, knowing again that he can do that. And that again gives him a sense that he can go and, be more aggressive and relax and breathe and not have to worry about, when am I going to score again? When am I going to score again?
Yeah.
Which you would figure that would be part of the mentality because, last year he scored a bunch of goals and this year he hasn't.
Yeah, relief to say the least. The fact that he was sobbing after the goal, I think, really said it all. So you've got Toronto now. This team, I don't know what to say about Toronto other than John Herdman's taking over on October the 1st. So they still have Terry Dunfield as the interim coach. They're coming off the 4-0 loss to Miami. All 4 goals by Miami scored after Messi and Alba had left the field injured. That's been a pretty public thing now that those two were out of the game. 4 goals scored. Messi's not going to play this weekend. Tata Martino has already said that. He didn't really, I didn't know if he commented on Alba as well in that, talking about I think Alba's out this weekend too.
I think so too.
When they're playing Orlando. So it's going to be
Orlando is going off for blood in that game.
Yeah. Well,
because Miami eliminated them in a really, really testy game in Leagues Cup. That was really Araujo on Messi. If Messi got a headache, Araujo was taking the aspirin. Seriously, he was that close to him.
Well,
and that was a very,
I guess
very
we should have
testy
mentioned
game.
Orlando clinched, even though they lost to New York City, they clinched based on other results on Wednesday
there were
night.
Huge results that happened because teams came from behind. And so Cincinnati came from behind in the 7th minute of stoppage time and tied Montreal. Huge. And then Philadelphia came from 2 back and they tied it in the 7th minute of stoppage time.
On a Daniel Gazdag penalty, he is now he's 11 for 11 this year. 11 of his 13 goals are penalties.
He did miss one in Leagues Cup, by the way.
I didn't know that. I guess I'm only going MLS, though. He's 19 for 19 in MLS.
Yes, I was shocked. It was in a penalty shootout, and he missed. And I was like, what? And he did.
I forgot that. Thank you, Roberto.
Welcome.
Now,
Meanwhile,
Toronto. Lorenzo Insigne, $7.5 million annually. Federico Bernardeschi, $6.25 million annually.
And pissed that he's not making the same amount of money as Insigne is.
And DeAndre Kerr, he's I don't know what he's on, but it's less than much less than those two
considerably.
Guys. I think he's 75.
He's got their gas money, basically.
But that's about $14 million, and Toronto can't score goals. So it's pretty interesting. They're both attacking players. Insigne has 4. Bernardeschi's got 5 in terms of goals. And Toronto's just been a nightmare. We know that. But not long ago, well, it was right before the international break, they beat Philadelphia 3-1.
Yeah, that's their only win, by the way.
That was at BMO. It was a home game.
They've lost 12 of their last 13 matches around all competitions, and the only victory is over Philadelphia. I was like, what? They beat Philly. It was 3-1 game.
And what's interesting, too, up at BMO, there were 25,000 people. I mean, people are still going to the games.
I love it.
They still go to the games.
Which is great. I mean, that is really great because it shows that they love the team no matter what. And
so would you say the same thing about the New York City supporters that won't come to Red Bull Arena on Saturday night? They love the team no matter what, so they're going to come to New Jersey.
They're not going to come, especially with that rain.
By the way, there's no difference. If I could use the words "by the way" like you like to use.
Well, that's fine. Anyway, Toronto. Here's another stat that's sort of crazy. They haven't won any of their last 19 matches away. The last time that they won a game that wasn't at BMO Field was in August of 2022. It's over a full year.
I didn't know that. Hold on. I've got to recover from that stat. Okay, I'm back.
I mean, it is what it is. It's so that's why I asked during the press conference and during press conferences if there is a problem of this being a possible trap game because they're playing Toronto and then they're playing Inter Miami next week, and this team can't afford to have a trap game. There's no such, and that seemed to be the mentality that Nick Cushing spoke about and then Andres Jason spoke about, is that they can't be, you can't have a letdown. They desperately need any and every single point that they can get. So the last time New York City played them was at Red Bull Arena, and they smoked them 5-0.
So when you listen to our radio broadcast now, after we've encouraged you at the top of the show here,
yes,
on the pregame show, you'll hear Andres Jason, I believe, right?
Yes.
On the Spanish commentary and on the English commentary are exclusive, and they're both exclusive one-on-one with Nick Cushing, which we have before each game. Our airtime, both of us, is 7:15 p.m. Eastern on a Saturday against Toronto.
I've got to share something about the interview, okay? Because
please.
I don't know how many people actually speak Spanish or tune in. So Andres, his Spanish, okay, so his dad is Argentinian, his mom is Spanish, but they wound up vacationing a lot in Spain and all that, so he had a very heavy Spanish accent. And he spoke with, like, instead of saying Barcelona, he would say Barcelona. You could hear it in his. Wow. He says, but once he got here and he started hanging out with the Argentinians, all the Argentinians, okay, the Tati Castellanos of the world, and now Cufré and Mati Pellegrini, and all their. It's contagious. Argentinian Spanish is absolutely contagious. And so now it's sort of like toned down, and he almost sounds a lot more Argentinian than he does Spanish. It's like, and I said, so what about the Mexicans? And I said, what about like Luis Barraza and Richie Ledesma and Edwin Aguilar? And he goes, no, not Mexican. It's more Argentinian. So it's fun.
And his father, remember, his father's a rugby guy. And Argentinian rugby is huge.
And his last name is probably Hasson, is really the way to pronounce it. But they've Americanized it.
Maybe Nick Cushing's got it.
He's got it right all the way, But he Americanized it, and it's Jason, and that's the way they say it, and that's the way we will continue to say it because that's the way he wants it.
Well, so Andres Jason, you would think would be earning another start based on his performance. Overall against Orlando City.
I don't know if you gave this stat on your broadcast or not.
I don't know.
But Sean Cabrera looked it up again, and he does a great job helping us out on our Spanish broadcast. So Jason, again, leads MLS in fouls received per 90 minutes. He was at 4.11 before last game, and he received 6 fouls.
Yeah,
6 fouls on the last game. So 2 years ago, when he was a rookie, he was
on the ground, man.
Yeah, 2 years ago when he was a rookie, he led the league, with over 5 fouls received per game.
Yeah,
and I said, you got to get fouled more.
It's
an amazing stat. He's very good at it. He sacrifices his body.
Well, but beyond that, he gave a real description in his presser. Today, and you could go back and hear that at some point. I'm sure we'll play some clips or something, not here, but across the way, because I'm interested in replaying that as well. But the use of his body. But I thought the really interesting thing, and give him massive credit, because I haven't seen anybody in the league draw fouls better than he does. Maxi Morales was up there,
yeah,
but he reads the body language of the defender's approach and then sets himself up. So he really the defenders are setting themselves up for the fouling disaster at that moment because Jason's going to tumble. And he did smile when I said sometimes there's contact and sometimes there's not. And he just looked and smiled at me.
There's no way that he would cheat. I mean, I'm shocked that you would suggest that. But one of the things that he said, and it was really important, he says that he uses the defender's aggressiveness against them. And it's great. And it's like the same thing that you would do in the NFL when you have a play action pass, right? When the defense is really, really aggressive and they're coming after the quarterback the whole time. Then you do that play action, it freezes the linebackers and you get a little bit more time.
All right. So New York City against Toronto. That's the next one. Another knockout playoff game in the regular season for New York City. All right, Shane, let's do some kicking it around, huh? All right, there's a former NYCFC Academy player who has the distinction of becoming the first American to score in a UEFA competition in the 2023-24 season, Dante Polvara from Pleasantville, New York. There he is celebrating his goal. He scored against Eintracht Frankfurt, although his club ended up losing the match 2-1. And it's really a wonderful story that this young man and he's a winner, right? He won 2 Academy DA championships with New York City. He won the Herman Award as the top player in college soccer at Georgetown University, where he also won a national championship. So there he is celebrating the goal.
Awesome. Fantastic. Good to see. We like to see ex-New York City players do well abroad or anyplace else.
Paxton Aronson, just quickly on the Philadelphia Union side of things, he started and played 45 minutes for Frankfurt in that game. So that's some of that. I was looking back at former New York City FC coaches. I thought, let's see what's happening with them. In particular, it starts with Miles Joseph, who was an assistant under Jason Kreis for New York City FC in 2015. And Miles is the interim replacement for Gio Savarese, who got sacked by Portland. And, admittedly a tough time for Miles, but he accepts the position. And in 5 games, he's got 4 wins and a draw. And Portland has gone from below the playoff line to 8th place and above the playoff line.
And Miles is auditioning for the job.
Yeah, and that too. That is the case. Yes.
He's 100%. He's always been content of being the assistant, to being the second guy, which is fine. But now I think he's got that it's gotten into him that he wants to coach, that he wants to be the guy. And good. I hope so. He's such a nice guy. He's obviously brilliant. So we'd like to see Miles succeed. If Gio Savarese couldn't stay in Portland, then Miles Joseph taking over for him, that would be fantastic. We hope he gets a job there.
As for Jason Kreis, I actually stay in touch with Jason from time to time, and had a recent communication with you. You're going to enjoy this. He said he's a free agent, because I asked him, are you coaching anywhere? What's going on? He goes, no, I'm a free agent. The reason I contacted him is that a friend of mine wanted to switch from a 4-3-3 to a 4-4-2 with a diamond in the midfield. And the first person I thought of was Jason Kreis, who won an MLS championship coaching that system at Real Salt Lake. So he wrote back with all these different things, which was really nice of him. So that's Jason Kreis, free agent. Patrick Vieira and Christian Wilson, who was Patrick's assistant here and still is at Strasbourg. They're 10th in the table, so they're looking to get that moving in a more positive direction. But the word is that they're playing much better soccer. The supporters are happy. So that wasn't always the case at Nice, where the supporters they're bonkers. Yeah. And the ultras there. I mean, they camped out. I don't think it was at his house, but they did something crazy at the training facility when it wasn't going well for Nice. So Patrick's back in France at Strasbourg.
Too many rocks on the beach.
And then at Club Brugge, it's Ronnie Dylan and Efrain Juarez, and they're 3rd in the table. And Ronnie getting promoted to this club after having some success on another Belgium side, Standard Liège. So it's going well there. So it's just sometimes I forget, and then all of a sudden I'll check again. So I thought I would just share that. See what the ex NYC guys are doing.
Well, that's awesome. Good to hear. I'm happy for all of them. Hopefully they all do well.
All right. What else do I have here? I've got the FIFA Puskas Award Top Goal of the Year. So this just came into my inbox. I didn't even know I was on. Apparently, I can vote for the FIFA Goal of the Year.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how that. I went to Qatar to the World Cup. Maybe somehow I got on it. I'm going to vote, and the goals are great. There must be a way to go on and find these things. Google it or whatever. So it's the FIFA Puskas Award.
What you can do, Glenn, is after this is posted on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever, you can go and post a link of what the goal is.
Am I allowed to do that?
Of course. You can,
because I got a link sent to me, but is it I could share it to anybody. That'll be all right?
Yeah, you can share it there. Yeah, you can't share it here. You can share it just like you share anything else. Just like you share your goal calls.
Well, I think I'm going to vote for 18-year-old Linda Caicedo. And I'd like everybody to go watch that goal. She opened the scoring when Colombia defeated Germany 2-1. Probably there were several upsets in the World Cup this year on the women's side, but this one was perhaps the most massive. And you just have to watch this goal. She got into the penalty area, a little juke, and then curled into the back post, and it was just it was a remarkable finish, and I think I'm going to vote for that one. There's some good ones, though, including Alvaro Barreal for Cincinnati. I don't know if it was – I think it was Leagues Cup. It was a corner kick that was set up for him. They lofted it outside the area, and he had a full volley with the left from about 25 yards out. An unbelievable goal.
The Anton Tinnerholm goal versus San Jose.
Yeah, very similar to Tinnerholm's. And then Julie Ertz had a farewell match for the U.S. women's national team. They beat South Africa. 31 years old, had an injury, then a baby, and then got herself fit to play in the World Cup.
Which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, and it's just too bad. I'm sure she probably was strongly considering, or maybe had already decided ahead of time, that was going to be her swan song. And it just ended so much in disappointment with the early elimination for the U.S. women at the World Cup. But 22,000 at TQL in Cincinnati to
almost a sellout because it's the sellout there is 25,512.
Okay,
and then next game is Megan Rapinoe's farewell.
Yeah, and I hope nobody does to Rapinoe what Rapinoe did to Heather O'Reilly at Heather O'Reilly's farewell match. So that was a big deal. Heather O'Reilly playing her last match, and it was during the Colin Kaepernick era of kneeling. And so Megan Rapinoe made sure everybody knew that during the national anthem, she was going to kneel. And that became the entire discussion in the pregame, including the pregame show by the broadcasts. And so Megan Rapinoe, through this obvious, she felt strongly about it, but the timing of it was absolutely atrocious, and it took completely away from Heather's farewell match. So I hope Megan has a good farewell match, and there are no disruptions or distractions away from someone who's done a lot for the women's game, a lot for the game, a lot for women's professional athletes, a lot for women just in general in the workforce. I would never discount that, but I'm not a particularly big fan. How's that?
Seriously?
Yeah, that's it.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, well, whatever. All right, so hey, we got a broadcast 7:15 Eastern on Saturday, where New York City plays host to Toronto at Red Bull Arena. Roberto and I will be there, and that's when both our pre-games start. Him in Spanish, me in English, and this has been NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.